Microwaves are very interesting because Dr. Frey has studied that for many years, and the Russians know about this, and Putin knows about this. And what happens is microwaves damage the temporal lobe of the brain and influence not only hearing, not only balance, but also behavior and
Very
brain
serious.
damage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very serious. Could be either way. It could be either way at this point, but definitely something like either sound waves or radio waves.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you aren't watching the 10th Amendment Center videos and following their human rights group and civil rights group, you should be. This guy is the best, and the ruling class is trying to divide us and conquer us and keep us fighting each other over stupid, petty things that don't matter, when the reality is that we are all the victims of the ruling class and of the security industry that they wield. But this guy here, Michael Bolden, will bring us back together. It definitely gives you hope. And I pointed out in a lot of cases here that by taking back power from this out of control security state, prison state, industrial complex apparatus, that we are getting closer to people understanding that it's significantly worse than this. And we'll get a little closer to understanding the reality of bioeffects of non-lethal weapons, how easily they can be used from satellites, and what sort of effects they have on people. And of course, the unfortunate fact is that everyone in the public safety industry, from doctors, the police, the Pentagon, the AMA, the FDA, all at the very least, at best, and it's hard to believe, at best, dropped the ball and was asleep at the wheel. That's getting harder to believe by the day. Clearly, they understood, the Pentagon knew in '98 when they wrote this, that they could influence behavior, that they could affect motivation, attention, memory in order to organize behavior, aggressive, adjustive, sexual. They knew that then. This was declassified in 2006, so Congress knew it or should have known it by then. But luckily we have groups like this that are trying to chip away at that kind of evil, self-serving structure in ways that are realistic and have very real-world positive effects.
And now it's been about 5 years now since this started. Probably a little bit longer. Jesse writes, the San Diego City Council has been approving the grant applications, effectively buying a wide range of tools under the guise of terrorism preparedness. Of course, everything since 9/11, 2001, 9/11, so many years ago, almost 20 years ago, everything is to keep us safe. But if you think that they're trying to keep us safe, you have to remember that most of the time when they say this is for your safety, it's really meaning so we can control you, so we can monitor, so we can stalk you, so we can track and trace everything that we can possibly track and trace about you, so at some point in the future we can use that information as a weapon against you. So they have been effectively buying a wide range of tools under the guise of terrorism preparedness in San Diego City Council without any meaningful vetting. The funds, and this is where I'm kind of getting the breadcrumb, and I'm hoping you guys, if you're really interested in this topic, if not, don't sweat it, but if you're really interested in this topic, I am looking for research of where the money is coming from. We know in San Diego.
Follow the money. Look at motive and opportunity. To quote The Big Lebowski, you look for who would benefit, man, and that's who usually the perpetrator is. It's the same thing, and you really can just boil down all things in humanity down to self-interest, money, power, lust for power, greed. It's always the same story. It's just an uncomfortable story, and people don't want to accept it. So this type of thing is allowed to continue. But there's hope out there. And again, you know, this guy might not be coming out and saying what I'm saying, but they all understand it, okay? And, you know, maybe they're doing it right. You know, what they're doing is they're to take down the monster that's been created here. You've got to hit it from all sides, and you've got to start small, and you've got to understand how it works and how far-reaching it is. And just to finish real quick, this should be a separate video, but stop saying that the United States government is attacking you or U.S. citizens. Essentially, there is no proof of that. And quite frankly, even if there was proof, red-handed proof, no one would believe it because it's too painful and scary for most Americans to accept. And I say, let's stick to one, what we know. Let me rephrase that. It isn't what you know, it's what you can prove. Let's stick to what we can prove. We can prove that the Pentagon understood in 1998 that radar systems could be used to organize human behavior and affect all of these things. Motivation could be used to send private messages to an individual, that could be used to destabilize someone. It might be not only would it create a disruptive condition, a sense of hearing, but it could be psychologically devastating if one suddenly heard voices in one's head. They knew they could communicate with individuals, they knew they could influence behavior, and they knew that they could psychologically destabilize people. This is a fact. It doesn't mean that they're doing it, though, but it means that they knew it, and these are the people who are being paid to protect us. It would be an acceptable outcome for Americans, and I think we'll get to this point where they realize that the Pentagon knew, that the security state knew, that Congress knew no later than 2006 when this was declassified of this reality, and didn't do anything about it. This is based on the work of Dr. Alan Frey from the 60s, so the medical community knew. Where's the AMA? Where's the FDA on this? They just sat back while an entire generation of people was put on pills and misdiagnosed. We now have the most drugged up nation on earth. They all knew, and that can be proven. You're never going to prove, and like I said, even if you could prove that people within the United States security apparatus were doing this, most Americans couldn't accept it. It's too large a hill to climb, right? First, they would have to accept the reality of the technology, which is scary, and then they would have to accept that the people who we pay to protect us chose not to. It's some tragic combination of failing and or choosing not to protect us. And that's another tough one to swallow. And I think that's about the most we can expect people to do, and that's good enough. So, we don't need to get people to believe that the United States government did this to anybody. All we need to get them to understand is that it was technologically a reality decades ago, and that they knew it and didn't stop it for whatever reason. That's enough. That will cause the effect. That will change the landscape. It will destroy their reputation, and it will make everybody stop and say, remember, the Pentagon gets 50% of our discretionary spending. The fact that they chose not to or failed to protect us is the largest national security failure in world history, human history, as far as I'm concerned.
Effectively buying a wide range of tools under the guise of terrorism preparedness. Of course, everything since 9/11, 2001, 9/11, so many years ago, almost 20 years ago, everything is to keep us safe. But if you think that they're trying to keep us safe, you have to remember that most of the time when they say this is for your safety, it's really meaning so we can control you, so we can monitor, so we can stalk you, so we can track and trace everything that we can possibly track and trace about you. So at some point in the future, we can use that information as a weapon against you. So they have been effectively buying a wide range of tools under the guise of terrorism preparedness in San Diego City Council without any meaningful vetting.